Across the endless black drifted Oblivion, a monstrous entity without beginning or end. It moved like a storm between the stars, devouring light, consuming worlds, and swallowing the echoes of creation itself. To gaze upon it was to witness the death of all things. Far from its shadow, among the dying embers of an ancient galaxy, a lone being prepared to defy eternity. It was called the Primagen, last of an early spacefaring race, whose curiosity had outlived their gods. From the bridge of his lightship, he looked beyond the stars with a single, consuming purpose: to travel back to the moment of creation, to behold the first spark of existence with his own eyes. Engines roared as the lightship pierced the fabric of time. The void trembled beneath its power, reality folding like paper in its wake. For a heartbeat, the impossible seemed within reach. Then the heart of the vessel faltered. The lightship's power core, a star bound in quantum chains, ruptured. A surge of energy cascaded through the ship, warping the laws of physics themselves. The Primagen was thrown into a maelstrom of collapsing time, his cries swallowed by the shattering roar of the cosmos. Ship and pilot were flung across the gulfs of eternity, hurled through the dying embers of one reality and into the birth screams of another. The old universe died in an instant. From its ashes, a new one was born, an expanding storm of light and matter, the first breath of a newborn cosmos. To those who would one day study its faint echoes, it would be known as the Big Bang. In that same moment, the eternal darkness that had haunted the void, Oblivion, was torn asunder. Once a being of absolute consumption, it found itself caught in the violent rebirth of everything. The wave of creation ripped through its essence, scattering its form across a newborn dimension. It did not die, but it endured agony beyond comprehension. As the Primagen's lightship was flung through the collapsing continuum, fragments of matter, time, and raw creation clung to its wake. When the ship finally came to rest, those fragments began to merge. From their union rose a singular, impossible world. This world would come to be known as the Lost Land. Within its core, the lightship rested, a silent monument to the birth and death of everything. Inside the shattered vessel, the Primagen slumbered, his body preserved, his mind trapped in an endless dream state, forever reliving the moment of creation. He had sought to witness the beginning of life, and instead had become its unwitting architect. His dreams now pulsed faintly through the heart of the Lost Land, divine echo shaping the strange world around him. Beyond the veils of the new cosmos, Oblivion stirred, wounded but not broken. It gathered the remnants of its strength and turned its hollow gaze towards a new netherscape, the vast dimensional barrier separating the Lost Land from the infinite plains beyond. And from the darkness came a new hunger. Oblivion sought to tear its way through the netherscape, to reclaim what was stolen from it, to devour creation once more. In the stillness that followed the birth of the new universe, the Lost Land endured, a world forged from fragments of shattered realities, suspended beyond the reach of time. Its skies burned with strange auroras, its oceans shimmered with colors unseen in any other realm. Across its vast plains and steaming jungles, life flourished in forms both familiar and alien. Here, evolution did not falter. Dinosaurs, spared from extinction from the land's timeless nature, continued to thrive. They grew wiser, stronger, more cunning. Over millions of uncounted years, their bloodlines diverged and ascended. Claws gave way to tools, roars, to language. From the bones of the old world rose a new species, the dinosaurs, intelligent descendants of the primordial beasts, builders of cities and keepers of ancient memory. They rule beneath the twin suns of the Lost Land, unaware that an older darkness had begun to stir beneath their feet. From the edges of the Netherscape, where light and shadow entwined, fragments of Oblivion's wounded essence seeped into the world. These fragments festered, coalescing into living nightmares, creatures of hunger and corruption, known as the spawn of Oblivion. The dinosaurs named them the Flesh Eaters. They came into the world without warning, spreading across the valleys and jungles, their touch rotting the land itself. In the heart of the vast mountain range, the Flesh Eaters carved a fortress of bone and black stone, a citadel that pulsed with the remnants of Oblivion's power. From this stronghold, they gathered strength, worshipping the shattered god that had birthed them, and awaiting the day when the veil between worlds would weaken once more. And far above, deep within the ruins of the lightship, the Primagen slept on, dreaming still of the creation he had once sought to witness. Unaware that the world his fall had made now trembled between light and shadow. In time, the chaos of the Lost Land gave rise to order. Across jungles thick with ancient vines and plains, where thunder lizards still roamed, the scattered peoples of the world began to dream of unity. Humans, Saurians, mammalians, and other sentient kin gathered beneath one banner, not of conquest, but of survival. From the ashes of countless fallen cities was born the Lazarus Concordance, a pact sworn between species, tribes, and city-states to build a refuge untouched by the endless strife of their world. They called it the Safe Land, a realm where law, learning, and peace might stand eternal against the chaos that devoured all else. The founders of the Concordance raised monuments of steel and stone, their banners marked with a sigil of rebirth. They swore oaths beneath the twin suns that no tyranny or no monster would ever again dictate the fate of the lost world. To the proud dinosaurs, heirs of the primal world, the Concordance was an abomination, a rebellion against the natural order. They saw the Safe Land not as a sanctuary, but as blasphemy, a denial of the survival through strength that had forged their civilization across countless eons. And so the great conflict began. Dinosaur legions marched from the basalt citadels, their banners crimson with the blood of old empires. The Concordance answered in kind, alliances of soldiers, scholars, and mystics drawn from every corner of the Lost Land. Thus began the War of Scales and Stone, a struggle that was stretched beyond the measure of centuries. Cities rose and fell like the beating of a single, colossal heart. Forests burned, rivers boiled, and the bones of gods littered the battlefields of eternity. Through it all, the dream of peace endured, fragile, luminous, and forever on the brink of extinction. And still the Primagen dreamt, a mind adrift in an endless slumber, trapped between creation and oblivion. Yet even in dreams his will endured. Its thoughts began to ripple outward, whispering through the fabric of the Lost Land like echoes in a storm. To most who heard his voice, it was madness, a cold intrusion from the stars that they had fled in terror. But a few listened, a few understood. 7 beings, each powerful in mind, spirit, and ambition, opened themselves fully to the Primagen's influence. They felt his sorrow, his purpose, his divine hunger to return to the light of creation. They became his chosen, his instruments. The Lazarus Concordance, ever vigilant, soon sensed the psychic tremors rippling through the minds of their people. Scholars, mystics, and seers came together and uncovered the truth that the Primagen, still sealed within his vessel, still reached outward with thoughts potent enough to reshape minds and bend souls. Fearing what might come should he ever wake, the Concordance embarked upon their greatest work, The forging of the energy totems, colossal pylons of reality-bound power designed to stabilize the fractures between space and time. 5 totems were constructed, each erected over a nexus where the Primagen's influence was the strongest. Together they formed a lattice of containment, a prison of light and energy to hold him fast within his ancient tomb. Should even one fall, the chain would weaken. Should all 5 be destroyed, the Primagen's light ship would awaken once more, unleashing a storm of temporal fire that would consume the universe itself. In the southern reaches of the Lost Land flowed the River of Souls, a vast and corrupted torrent whose waters ran thick with the residue of the lightship's ancient engines. It poisoned all that touched, its glow a lingering wound upon the world. But when the Concordance raised one of their totems upon its banks, the impossible occurred. The waters began to clear. The futile current turned bright, pure, and alive once more. Life returned to its shores, and hope with it. Around this miracle, the people built a city, vast and gleaming, rising like a jewel from the reborn river. They named it Araisi, City of Renewal, a beacon of defiance against decay and despair. The totem at its heart became both symbol and safeguard, a reminder that even the poisons of gods could be undone by the wills of mortals. As the centuries turned and the wars of the Lost Land raged on, even the servants of darkness were not immune to change. Deep within the mountains where the flesh-eaters had built their fortress, a great schism took root. Some among them sought to escape the endless slaughter, retreating far below the earth into the labyrinths of stone and fire. There, in the suffocating dark, generations passed without a single glimpse of light. In time, their eyes withered, their skin turned pale as bone, and their forms grew lean and twisted. Thus were born the blind ones, descendants of the flesh-eaters, robbed of sight but granted a new kind of vision. They learned to navigate the endless caverns by sound and touch. To the surface dwellers they became myth, whispers of ghostly hunters that moved unseen in the abyss. In their ceaseless pursuit of power, the dark magi and the alchemists of the Lost Land sought to fuse the divine spark of life with the fury of the elements. Their experiments, part science, part sorcery, stretched across centuries of madness and sacrifice. From their forges rose the fireborn, beings wrapped in perpetual flame, their veins coursing with molten blood. They were living weapons, born of flesh, tempered by magic, and bound by the will of their creators. To see one was to behold a walking inferno, a god of war molded from ash and agony. Elsewhere, the need for perfect predators drove others to more brutal means. Through countless generations of selective breeding and cruel culling, the hunters were fashioned, reptile beasts with hides like iron and senses honed to the bone. They ran in packs across the broken plains, silent and merciless. They were creatures that could track prey across continents and tear armored men apart in seconds. Not to be outdone, the dinosaurs turned their mastery of genetics towards their oldest allies, the raptors that have fought beside them since the dawn of their civilization. Through deliberate breeding and bioengineering, they reshaped the species to something greater. Their limbs were elongated and reinforced with organic implants, their minds sharpened to near sapience. These enhanced beasts became known as the Prime Raptors, apex predators bred for war, swift as shadows, loyal only to their dinosaur masters. Amid this age of mutation and innovation, the flesh-eaters themselves rose to renown as the greatest smiths of the Lost Land. Their weapons gleamed like liquid night, their armor fused with strange alloys and sinew pulsed with life. Each blade they forged carried a whisper of the Oblivion's power, humming faintly with hunger. Those who wielded their creations often found that the weapons wielded them in return. Yet not all legacies were born of science and sorcery. In a forgotten age, a barbarian warrior, betrayed by his own kin, forged a helm in wrath. Into it he poured his vengeance, cursing the metal so that all who wore it would inherit his rage and his doom. The cursed helm passed from hand to hand across generations, from kings to conquerors, from generals to madmen. Each believed they could master it. Each was consumed by its whispering will. And so the helm endured, a relic of hate that watched empires rise and fall, waiting for its next bearer, and the ruin they would surely bring. An age perhaps older than the helm, when the boundaries between time and eternity still trembled, there existed a weapon unlike any other. The chronoscepter, forged by hands no living being remembers. It was said to hold dominion over the flow of existence itself. With a single thought, it could tear open the veil between moments, undo reality, and reshape history to the wielder's desire. Legend spoke of its birth within the dying heart of a star, its core infused with the essence of creation, its frame etched with the symbols of lost gods. The mere presence of the chronoscepter distorted the world around it. Clocks faltered, shadows moved in reverse, and the echoes of the future whispered across the air. But such power could not remain unchallenged. Wars were waged to claim it. Entire civilizations burned in pursuit of its mastery. It was said that even the Primagen, in his dreaming prison, felt its pulse through the folds of time, and reached for it from beyond his cage. Fearing that the chronoscepter might one day unmake old things, the wisest of the Lost Land made a terrible decision. In a ritual that shook the heavens, they shattered the weapon into many pieces, scattering them across countless realms and ages. Each fragment was hidden within worlds uncharted, guarded by creatures and traps born of myth. The chronoscepter's light was extinguished, but its memory endured. For those who still seek its ultimate power, whisper that its shards yet sing to one another, calling across time, waiting to be made whole again. In the waning years of the Dominion, the Lazarus Concordance uncovered something that should never have been found. Deep beneath the ruins of her forgotten temple, a place older than the Lost Land itself, their explorers unearthed an artifact of an impossible design. It pulsed faintly with an energy not of this world, its surface etched with the same sigils that endured the shattered hull of the Primagen's lightship. The scholars of Ruskay named it the Key of the Heavens. Legends whispered that it was crafted alongside the lightship itself, a relic capable of unlocking its sealed core, perhaps freeing the slumbering god imprisoned within. When word reached the Concordance Council, fear eclipsed curiosity. The memories of the Primagen's psychic intrusions still lingered, and the scars of his influence had yet to fade. None dared to risk awakening the being who had once destroyed a universe. In secrecy and silence, the council convened and reached a grim decision. The artifact was to be destroyed, or as close to it as mortal hands could achieve. The key was dismantled, its pieces broken and scattered across the expanse of the Lost Land. Each fragment was buried, entombed, or cast into pieces where few could tread. Jungles thick with death, caverns beneath living stone, temples swallowed by the tides of time. Guardians were appointed in silence, sworn to protect what they could never use. The knowledge of the key's purpose was erased from all records, its existence reduced to myth and whispers. Yet still it's said that on certain nights, when the stars align with the ruins of the old temple, a faint hum rises from the earth, the song of a machine that remembers what it once was and still longs to be whole. There came an age where the very essence of life itself became a weapon. The symbiont wars erupted across the breadth of the Lost Land. A conflict born not of borders or fate, but of biology. From laboratories, temples, or forgotten vaults emerged creations meant to transcend flesh. Living machines, self-aware parasites, and organisms fused with metal and mind. At first, the war was fought in the shadows, an arms race of gene forging, spirit binding. But as the symbionts multiplied, and their hosts spread like wildfire, the balance of the world collapsed. Entire cities were consumed, and populations transformed into mindless conduits of their own creations. The air itself turned thick with spores of living steel. Amid the ruins stood Galyanna, the beating heart of the Lost Land, a city of light and reason, home to the Council of Voices, the greatest minds of the age. Each counselor was a master of a different discipline: science, sorcery, history, strategy, and will. When the symbiont plague came to their gates, they refused to flee. Instead, they adapted. Through courage, sacrifice, and intellect, the Council of Voices led the defense of Galyanna, designing countermeasures that turned the symbiont's own biology against them. They wove barriers of light around the city, purged its water and air, and guided its people through the darkest chapter of their history. Many fell, but Galyanna endured, and in time the war ended. Years turned to centuries. The Council of Voices, heroes of an age now fading into legend, grew frail and old. Yet even as their bodies withered, their minds remained sharp, unwilling to fade into silence. And so, in the vaults beneath Galyanna, they enacted their final act of preservation. One by one, the counselors surrendered their flesh, uploading their consciousness into the vast crystalline engines. Data vaults powered by the lifeblood of the city itself. Their bodies were laid in stasis, preserved within a sarcophagi of silver and glass, surrounded by the hum of machinery that never slept. Though their voices now echoed through the circuits instead of lungs, the people of Galyanna still sought their wisdom. When the city dreamed, the council dreamed with it. Guardians of memory suspended between life and death. Yet whispers persist that, over the millennia, the voices have changed. Their thoughts stretched by eternity. Their logic drifted into something alien. Some say they no longer advise but watch. In the deepest chambers beneath the city, their preserved bodies still rest, faces serene, as if waiting to wake once more. In an age where prophecy still guided the fates of empires, there arose a seer of unmatched vision, Tarkeen, whose eyes had long since turned to silver from the strain of seeing too much. He walked the dreamscape between worlds, reading the past and future as if they were pages of the same book. It was Tarkeen who beheld the slow unraveling of the Lost Land, the wars of flesh and machine, the rise of gods and silences of heroes. In his visions, he saw the shadow of Oblivion stretching once more across the horizon, and the faintest spark of hope buried deep within the time's endless sea. In his desperation, Tarkeen turned to stone, a deity of the old world, neither of light nor darkness, but of enduring balance. Stone was said to have forged the mountains and carved the bones of the world with his own hands. To him, Tarkeen swore an oath that he would seek out one warrior strong enough to restore equilibrium to the Lost Land, the one destined to bear the ancient mantle of Turok. Stone accepted the oath in silence. The ground trembled, and Tarkeen's mind was forever bound to the will of prophecy. He saw visions of the Chosen One, a warrior from another world, drawn through this veil of fate, a man whose arrival would herald both salvation and sorrow. Thus began Tarkeen's eternal search, guided by dreams and omens. Through centuries of ruin and renewal, he wandered the jungles of time, awaiting the day when the Lost Land itself would call its champion home. As the ages passed, Stone's strength waned. The worship of mortals faded, and with it, his power. The mountains no longer echoed his name, and the rivers ceased their songs. In the twilight of his divinity, stone withdrew into the deep earth, his colossal form turning to crystal, then to dust. When he finally perished, the world shuddered. The mountains wept molten tears, and tremors shook the foundations of the lost land. Tarkeen, in his solitude, felt the silence where Stone's voice had once dwelled. Yet he did not despair, for in that silence he felt the pulse of destiny, faint, distant, but alive. The death of Stone was not an end, but a beginning. Some say from the last fragments of Stone's essence, the earth forged new pathways, hidden conduits through which destiny might still flow. And through them one day, the chosen warrior would come to take up the mantle of Turok and bring balance to a world forever on the brink. On the dying frontier of Earth's 19th century, where the last embers of empire burned against the twilight of the old world, a man named Captain Tobias Bruckner rose to infamy. Once a soldier, later a hunter, he forged a company of volunteers bound not by honor, but by vengeance. Their mission, to hunt down the remnants of the Sequoian nation, one of the last free peoples resisting the march of civilization. Bruckner's crusade was ruthless. He preached duty and practiced slaughter. Driven by a festering pride and the promise of gold, he led his men across the plains in pursuit of the Sequoian, burning villages, desecrating sacred ground, and calling it justice. Far beyond Earth, across the veil of time and reality, another tyrant was rising. Deep within the lost land, the reptilian warlord Tyrannus, lord and commander of the Slegs, declared a holy war upon all who would defy his reign. Clad in ritual armor of obsidian and bone, he claimed divine purpose, that his kind had been chosen by the gods to cleanse the world of weakness. But the war he waged was no crusade of fate. It was conquest, calculated and merciless. Cities were reduced to ash, tribes enslaved, and the ancient species driven to extinction beneath the banners of the Slag Empire. Tyrannus' armies were vast and brutal, their ranks bolstered by abominations of his own making. Through forbidden science and sorcery, he twisted the bloodlines of ancient predators, creating monstrous steeds known as axe beaks, great feathered beasts bred from raptors and terror birds, their claws honed to razors and their screeches echoing like war horns across the jungles. Under his command, the world burned anew. Amidst the chaos, a wanderer named Mayana came to the river village, a settlement of peace and simplicity, untouched by the wars raging beyond its borders. She sought wisdom and purpose, guided by dreams she did not understand, and drawn towards a strange, rhythmic pull of destiny that seemed to hum in the waters of the rivers of souls. Back on Earth, the last remnants of the Sequoian nation fled southward, desperate to escape Bruckner's ruthless pursuit. Exhausted and starving, they sought the refuge beyond the border, hoping the mountains of Mexico might shield them from the wrath of the white man. But Bruckner was not finished. Though ordered to bring them in peacefully, he betrayed those commands without hesitation. He laid his trap, a killing field disguised as a parlay, prepared his men to strike. In his heart there was no pity, no hesitation, no light left to guide him. Only the cold certainty that history will remember his cruelty as victory. As the Sequoian approached beneath the burning sun, unaware of the guns waiting in the canyon, the ambush came at dawn. Hidden cannons, soldiers cloaked in dust, and Captain Tobias at their head. His voice cut across the canyon as the first volley erupted, a storm of lead and smoke tearing through the ranks of the Sequoian nation. In the chaos that followed, the proud tribe was all but annihilated. Men and women and children fell beneath the gunfire. Their songs, once carried on the wind, were silenced forever. Among the survivors was Tal'Set, a young warrior of the Sequoian, who fought with desperate fury as he watched his world die around him. He saw his wife and child struck down before his eyes. and the fire of vengeance was born in his heart. Chief Greybear, last leader of the Seguin, faced Bruckner himself. The two men clashed amid the smoke, and Bruckner struck the fatal blow. But before the chief fell, he laid his hands upon a mysterious stone monument, buried deep within the canyon floor, and whispered an ancient word. The monument came alive with light. As Bruckner raised his weapon again, Tal'Set lunged, his blade finding flesh. Both men grappled upon the cliff's edge. Bruckner fell screaming, his arms shattered, and in the same instant, the monument released a surge of unimaginable energy. The world tore open, a rift of blinding light that swallowed all. When Tal'Set awoke, the sky was no longer the same. It lay broken in a strange land, a place of two suns, endless jungles, and beasts that should have long been extinct. He had fallen into the lost land. Wandering tribes of the river people found him. Half dead and fevered, they carried him to the village, tending his wounds through long days and nights. Yet his strength continued to fade until they called upon the seer, Tarkeen, who came bearing the blessings of stone. Through ancient rites and the power of his mind, Tarkeen restored the warrior's life, though not his peace. Unbeknownst to them, the blast had not claimed Bruckner's life. The captain, too, had been hurled into the lost land. His body shattered, his arms severed. The Slag Empire found him among the ruins of a battlefield and brought him before their lord, Tyrannus. There the broken man was remade, his arm replaced with cold machinery, his mind hardened by hate. In time, he rose through the ranks, becoming Slag's general and Tyrannus' most feared warlord. His first order, the conquest of Galyanna. Healed but haunted, Tal'Set left the river village in the search of Tarkeen once more, hoping for answers to his visions. Along the way, he met Gen, a daring pilot and sky hunter. Together they traversed the skies, battling Slag patrols and airships, their weapons flashing like lightning across the jungle canopy. While Tal'Set fought in the heavens, darkness gathered below. The Slag struck at the river village, lunging its defenders away with false diversions before launching a full assault. The Wise Father, leader of the river people, was captured and taken north into the heart of the Slag war machine. Learning of the attack, Tal'Set returned in fury. With the help of the river scouts, he tracked the Wise Father's captors to a fortress of stone. Under cover of night, he infiltrated the stronghold, striking down the guards and sabotaging reactors till the walls shook with explosions. He discovered Tyrannus' war plans, freed the Wise Father, confronted Bruckner once more. A battle cut short by the timely arrival of Dajan, commander of the river people, who led their escape into the wild. Weeks later, Tal'Set pressed deeper into the Lost Land, joining a growing rebellion against the Slag Empire. In the dark jungle, he fought beside insurgents, toppling a Slag research station before being shot down, crashing near the fabled suspended city, a metropolis hanging above the Great Chasm. There he met with the city's senate, who saw the futility of the defense. They resolved to destroy their own home, sacrificing it to deny Tyrannus a path across the divide. Together, Tal'Set and the city's defenders cut the tethers that held the city aloft. The suspended city fell like a dying star, crashing into the abyss below. Tal'Set escaped into the Inferno, knowing the sacrifice had only bought time. 3 weeks later, the earth trembled as Tyrannus' legions approached Galyanna. At their head lumbered his new creation, the Juggernaut, a monstrous fortress built upon the back of a titanic sauropod. From his iron belly, entire battalions of Slag troops marched. Tal'Set, now the unspoken leader of the resistance, infiltrated the beast, fighting its way to its internal chambers and sabotaging its reactors from within. The Juggernaut erupted in flame, collapsing under its own weight. Tyrannus escaped the wreckage, his empire in disarray. The Battle of Galyanna raged for days. The sky burned red with fire and ash. But at last, the slag war machine faltered. Its troops broken, its generals slain. The city endured. The lost land breathed again. When the smoke cleared, Tal'Set found Bruckner, one final time amid the ruins. The two men clashed beneath the alien sun, echoes of their first battle, resounding through the valley. Steel met steel, blood met blood, and the cycle of vengeance came to its end. Bruckner fell, beaten, broken, and left to die among the bones of his own ambition. Tarkeen appeared once more and spoke with the words of prophecy. That balance had been restored, and that the warrior had fulfilled his destiny. Though weary and scarred, Tal'Set at last accepted the burdens of Stone's mantle. Thus he did become Turok, the protector of worlds, guardian of the lost land, and the eternal hunter who walks between creation and destruction. In time, the descendants of Tal'Set came into possession of a sacred relic, known as the Light Burden. Forged in the dawn of a new universe, the Light Burden was said to contain the last pure fragments of the cosmic energy that had birthed the lost land itself. The essence of creation, uncorrupted, eternal. Its glow was soft, almost human in its warmth, yet within it pulsed the power to ignite stars or unmake existence. Yet the Light Burden drew conflict, as surely as it radiated light. Armies rose and fell to possess it. The jungles burned, rivers turned to glass, and the mountains split beneath the fury of countless wars. Each time, the blood of Turok prevailed, until one warlord rose above the rest. He was only known as the Campaigner, a conqueror from beyond time. His origins lost to legend. He sought not merely dominion, but transcendence. His armies marched across the lost land, consuming kingdoms and enslaving tribes in their path. In the shadow of his advance, the skies turned crimson, and the earth trembled beneath the weight of his ambition. But when he met the guardian of the age, Tal'Set, still bearing the mantle of Turok, his conquest faltered. Their battle raged across the plains, through storm and fire, until at last the Campaigner was cast down. Tal'Set spared his life, though he left him broken and near death. Yet death did not claim him. In the ruins of his fortress, his loyalists rebuilt him piece by piece. Flesh replaced with steel, bone with circuitry, thought with unyielding code. When he rose again, it was as something no longer fully living. His face was masked in iron, his voice a chorus of echoes. His blood hummed with synthetic power. The Campaigner had become both man and machine, a warlord reborn to wage a new kind of conquest. In his exile, the Campaigner learned of an ancient weapon of legend, the Chronoscepter, the instrument capable of rending space and time itself. To him, it was not a relic to be feared, but a tool of ultimate dominion. He vowed to find its scattered fragments and restore it to full power. To amplify its reach, he built a focusing array, a colossal structure of alien design, capable of magnifying the Chronoscepter's energy until it could tear holes through reality. Through these rifts, he intended to step beyond the lost land, to conquer not one world, but all worlds. For this, he needed an army unlike any before. Drawing upon the forbidden sciences of the Slags and the remnants of the symbiont wars, the Campaigner created the Bionosaurs, monstrous hybrids of ancient reptilian might and advanced machinery. These towering beasts bore metallic implants fused to living flesh, reinforced spines, plasma vents, and neural circuits that linked them to their master's will. Their roars shook the heavens. Their breath carried the stench of oil and blood. The jungles trembled as they marched, an army of engineered extinction. As his power grew, so too did his alliances. The Pur-Linn, titanic, amphibious brutes of immense strength, swore loyalty to the Campaigner in exchange for dominion over the swamps of the Lost Land. The alien infantry, mercenaries from beyond the stars, pledged themselves to his cause, for the promise of endless conquest. Even the ancient warriors, remnants of long-dead empires, bound by forgotten oaths, rose from their tombs to serve him once more. United beneath his banner, these armies forged a legion that stretched from the volcanic north to the shattered ruins of the suspended city. The skies turned black with ash, and the stars themselves seemed to dim at the sight of his army's advance. And far to the south, where the light of the light burden still glowed within hidden temples, the heirs of Turok felt the weight of destiny once more. In the shadows of the campaigners' rise, the mantle of Turok once more fell to Tal'Set, guardian of the light burden and the protector of the balance between worlds. Guided by visions and by the counsel of ancient spirits, he discovered the hub ruins, a labyrinth of crumbling temples whose gateways bridged the furthest reaches of the lost land. Through these gateways, Tal'Set journeyed into realms untouched by time, jungles teeming with predatory beasts, catacombs filled with the bones of forgotten kings, and citadels suspended between worlds. Each realm hid a fragment of the chronoscepter, scattered long ago to keep its power from unworthy hands. The campaigner sought the same fragments and unleashed his champions to claim them. The first to fall was the Long Hunter, a mercenary of unparalleled skill who had sworn allegiance to the campaigner. Armed with the advanced weaponry and cunning born of countless wars, he hunted Tal'Set across the ancient battlegrounds. Their duel echoed through the jungles like thunder. In the end, the hunter became the hunted, and his death marked the first victory in Turok's long crusade. Deeper still, in the eternal darkness of the catacombs, Tal'Set faced the Mantis, guardian and priestess of an ancient insectoid cult. Her hive thrummed with the power drawn from real remnants of the Primagen's corruption. She fought with speed and venom, her limbs like blades of obsidian. The hunter's fire prevailed, and the catacombs fell silent once more. And then came Thunder, the campaigner's monstrous creation. A bionic Tyrannosaurus, forged of steel, flesh, and rage. Its roar split the sky, its footsteps cracked the earth. Tal'Set fought it beneath storms of flame and lightning, his arrows igniting against his armored hide, until at last he brought the beast low. His fall was said to shake the mountains themselves. At last, with all pieces of the chronoscepter gathered, Tal'Set ascended the campaigner's fortress, a spire of metal and ruin that pierced the clouds. Within its center, the campaigner awaited, his form not fully mechanized, his voice a distorted hymn of ambition. Their battle raged across the citadel, their corridors collapsing into fire and time itself tearing at the seams. But in the end, Tal'Set triumphed. The campaigner fell, his mechanical body collapsing beneath the weight of his own hubris. The weapon of eternity was safe. Knowing the danger the chronoscepter posed to all existence, Tal'Set carried it to the heart of a volcano, the same mountain said to have been born from the first spark of the lost land. There he cast the weapon into flames. The result was cataclysmic. Reality itself buckled as the chronoscepter energies tore free, consuming matter and time alike. The skies burned with the auroras of impossible colors. Mountains shattered, seas boiled, and deep beneath the earth, within the buried wreckage of his lightship, the Primagen stirred. The weapon's destruction had undone the seals of his prison. Once more, the ancient destroyer was awake. In the years that followed, the fires cooled, and the peace returned to the lost land. Fireseed, the city of renewal, entered an age of prosperity. Its people traded arms for art, science for comfort. Its great armies grew complacent, their vigilance fading with time. Elsewhere, the line of Turok endured. From Tal'Set's blood was born a child, and through that child, the Fireseed lineage began. A family destined to guard the lost land across the ages. Their name will one day echo through time as the hunters, prophets, and defenders against the darkness. But peace, as always, was temporary. The forces of Oblivion returned, twisting reality and spirit alike, and the Turok line rose again to meet them. Each generation bore the burden in their own way, some with strength, some with sorrow. In one age, an unidentified woman claimed the mantle. Though her heart was pure, the weight of eternity proved too great. The mantle consumed her, body and soul, and her name was lost to the ages. Her fall became a warning into the annals of the Lost Land. The title of Turok was not a gift. It was a burden of light and blood. Centuries passed. The legends of Tal'Set and his war against the campaigner faded into myth, and the Lost Land once more drifted towards uneasy peace. The Fireseed bloodline endured through the ages, your ancestors watching in silence, awaiting the time when destiny would call again. Elsewhere in the Fireseed line, a new guardian emerged. His name was Joshua Fireseed, descendant of Tal'Set, heir to the mantle of Turok. Though unaware of the true weight of his legacy, the blood of hunters and heroes flowed through his veins. When the dreams began, visions of jungles, dying stars, and a voice whispering from beyond, he knew his time had come. Beneath the crust of the Lost Land, within the shattered hull of the ancient lightship, the Primagen stirred from his millennia of slumber. The energies released by the destruction of the Chronoceptor had undone his prison. For ages, he had watched the world rebuild, festering in silence, and now he acted. From the depths of his confinement, he reached out across the void, sending whispers into the minds of the ambitious, the desperate, and the damned. His call promised power, conquest, and the undoing of fate itself. And one by one, the great races of the Lost Land answered. First came the Dinosaurs, ancient descendants of reptilian kings. The Primagen spoke to them of vengeance, reclaiming the world from the lesser mammals who had stolen it. In exchange for their loyalty, he granted them weapons of impossible design. Royal canyons, plasma rifles, and engines of war that fused technology with biology. Though they marched beneath his banner, their hearts burned with a different fire, the dream of human extinction. Next came the Pur-Linn, brutish amphibian warlords who had once fought for the campaigner. The Primagen deceived them with promises of godhood, bestowing upon them a small cache of high-tech arms, convincing them that their obedience would earn them dominion over the rivers and swamps of the New Age. Then came the Mantids, ever ambitious, ever hungry for new worlds. To them, the Primagen offered infinity. He promised them the stars themselves, endless realms to conquer once his prison was undone. The Mantids accepted eagerly, constructing vast rift gates, interdimensional portals that will one day unleash their armies upon Earth and beyond. And so alliances were forged, a coalition of monsters bound by deceit, drawn together beneath the Primagen's dark will. The war began at fire. The coastal village of Edea, cradle of learning and trade, fell first. Its walls crushed beneath the Dinosaur vanguard, its people scattered or slain. The once proud city of Arasi, jewel of the Concordance, suffered next. Its monuments crumbled beneath the orbital bombardment. Its rivers turned red, and its ancient military, softened by centuries of peace, was swept aside like dust before the storm. The war trembled as the old balance shattered once more. In the heart of the Lost Land, the Lazarus Concordance gathered for one final time. The energy totems, long dormant, flared with warning. The Primagen power growing as his forces spread. Desperate to stop him, the Concordance turned to their last hope. A dawn, a guardian of wisdom and light, sworn to serve the lineage of Turok. With a solemn purpose, Dawn was tasked to guide the new hunter, Joshua Fireseed, on a perilous quest across the war-torn world. His mission was clear: to secure the energy totems, stem the tide of destruction, and ensure that the Primagen remains sealed within his lightship for all eternity. Joshua's quest began in the coastal city of Edea, once a vibrant port of peace, now a ruin of smoke and fire. The dinosaur vanguard had already breached the walls, their advanced weapons cutting through the stone as easily as flesh. Moving through the burning streets, Joshua rescued the survivors he could, the lost and the orphaned, while activating the city's distress beacons to summon aid. Amidst the chaos, he confronted the Primagen's forces at the foot of the energy totem, defending it in a siege that lasted through day and night. When the last dinosaur fell, the totem's light burned bright once more, a beacon of defiance against the dark. But as Joshua celebrated his victory, he felt something pull at his mind, the distortion of reality itself. He stepped through what appeared to be a portal, only to find himself in a world of rotting flesh and endless screaming. There he met the Flesh Eaters, the spawn of Oblivion, creatures born from darkness between worlds. They had constructed false portals throughout the Lost Land, traps meant to lure Turok into their realm and weaken him for their master's return. Joshua escaped, but not unscarred. Adon, shaken by his report, began researching this unknown entity, a power that even the Primagen seemed to fear. In Araces, the jewel of Concordance, the dead themselves had risen. The city was besieged by undead legions, commanded by the spectral entities, known as the Sisters of Despair. Joshua fought through the necrotic storm, destroying the soul gems that fed their invasion, and banishing the Sisters back to the abyss. The city's energy totem stood firm, but its walls, once gleaming and proud, were now blackened and cracked. Joshua next journeyed into the Death Marshes, where the Pur-Linn held prisoners of war in rusted cages, their bodies scarred by the venomous fog. There, the Turok led a campaign of liberation, rescuing the captives, destroying the Pur-Linn's ambition depots, and cutting off their supply lines. By the campaign's end, the swamp was burned, the enemy routed, and the totem's energy remained untouched. Descending deep into the underworld, Joshua entered the domain of the Blind Ones, the pale descendants of the Flesh Eaters. Twisted by centuries of darkness, their fortress was a maze of tunnels and heat vents that led to the planet's molten heart. There, Joshua sealed 3 thermal vents. The totem in their lair remained unbroken, pulsing like a heartbeat in the dark. Joshua's war next brought him to the colossal Mantled Hive, where the Primagen's allies prepared to open rift gates, portals meant to carry their armies to Earth and beyond. Joshua fought through hordes of alien soldiers, destroying their master computer and 3 developing queen embryos. Finally, in the heart of the hive, he faced the Mantled Queen herself, a creature of wrangle malice and ancient cunning. Their battle shook the tunnels and shattered the hive's foundations. When the queen fell, her death cry echoed across the worlds, and the Mantled evasion died with her. At last, Joshua reached the source, the Primagen's light ship, still buried beneath the Lost Land, yet alive with terrible energy. Inside, he destroyed the ship's automated assembly plants, halting the production of the Primagen's biobots, and reversed the polarity of its power cells. This act purified the River of Souls, cleansing it for the first time in millennia. Without the heart of the vessel, Joshua confronted and defeated the creature known only as the Mother, guarding the lightship's core. Though gravely wounded, she survived, slithering into the shadows. Gathering the 6 Primagen keys, Joshua reached the inner sanctum and faced the ancient destroyer himself. Their battle was unlike any before, a war fought not only with strength and weaponry, but with will. Reality folded and cracked under the force of their conflict. When it ended, the 5 energy totems flared with unified light, their combined power eradicating the Primagen utterly. His form disintegrated, his mind dispersed, and his psychic corruption was swept clean from the universe. For the first time since creation, sounds fell upon the Lost Land. But victory came at a cost. At the moment of the Primagen's destruction, his remaining biobots activated a berserker protocol. Without their master's control, they turned upon all life, metal and blood alike, spreading chaos even in defeat. In the wake of devastation, Adon confessed to Joshua that her research into the false portals had led her to a disturbing truth. The beings who had attacked him, the Flesh Eaters, did not belong to any known order of creation. Their energy signatures existed beyond the fundamental forces of the universe, and eerily, it resonated with the same power that marked the bloodline of Turok itself. Whatever they were, they had crossed paths with the Turok lineage before, and as the Dawn feared, they would again. So Joshua Fireseed's triumphs brought peace to the Lost Land. His victories came at a terrible price. Each act of salvation carried with it an echo of extinction. The cleansing of evil became, in time, the mourning of what once was. The death of the Mantid Queen and the destruction of her unborn heirs, the Mantid race, one of the oldest and most formidable species in the Lost Land, was dealt a fatal blow. Their hives, once humming with the resonance of millions, fell silent. Without their monarchs to guide them, their vast neural web began to unravel. The survivors became wanderers, a broken legion haunted by instinct and loss. In desperation, they turned their gaze to the one relic said to contain the power of creation itself, the light burden. Believing that its divine energy could open a rift to their true homeworld, the Mantid remnants sought to wield it not as a weapon, but as salvation. If they could bridge the Lost Land to the distant cradle of their species, they might restore what had been lost, or at least die trying. Thus began their final pilgrimage, a long march through ruined jungles and shattered cities, their once imperial banners reduced to tattered shrouds. No chronicles record their end. Some say they vanished into the caverns beneath the world. Others claim the light burden itself rejected them, dissolving their flesh into starlight. Whatever their fate, the Mantids passed into the legend, the last echo of an empire born in darkness and ended in despair. Deep below, in the labyrinths of the Magnan Stone, the Blind Ones suffered an equally grim fate, where Joshua sealed the thermal vents that fed their subterranean domain. The earth itself became their tomb. Mountains shifted, caverns collapsed, and the choking heat that had sustained their strange biology turned cold. Only a handful survived, crawling through cracks and forgotten tunnels to the surface, where light burned their eyes and air scorched their lungs. Those few who had endured became feral things, pale, wordless, and terrified of the sky. Over generations, they retreated into myth, whispered of by travelers as ghostly shapes glimpsed at the edges of the firelight. The rest were lost forever, buried beneath the very rock that had once become their refuge. So ended too the Lost Land's elder species, not by hatred or malice, but by the necessary hand of fate. Joshua Fireseed had preserved the balance, yet even he could feel the cost of what he had done. The mantle of Turok demanded victory, but it never promised mercy. And above it all, the light burden still glowed, its energies flickering with the sorrow of the world that it once created. Though the Primagen had been destroyed, his creations endured. In the shadows of the Lost Land, the surviving biobots, his tireless synthetic legion, continued to follow the final command imprinted upon their core programming: eradicate the Turok. They tracked Joshua Fireseed across the jungles, their eyes burned with crimson light, their voices speaking in fragments of the Primagen's mind. Again and again they struck, ambushes in the night, orbital bombardments from the husks of abandoned sky fortresses, assaults launched from beneath the earth itself. Turok fought as his ancestors had, with bow and blade, spirit and will. One by one the machines fell until only a single biobot remained, silent, observing, adapting. It vanished into the waste, its purpose unfinished. Among the countless wanderers of the Lost Land was Syra, once a soldier of renown, now a bounty hunter, feared across the worlds. Hardened by loss and tempered by survival, she lay by contract alone, allegiance to none but the highest bidder. When the bounty was placed upon Joshua Fireseed, Syra accepted without hesitation. She did not know who had offered it, only that the payment was beyond measure, and the target was said to be no mere man, but a myth. Following rumors and echoes, she tracked him through the scorched plains and verdant ruins, left in the wake of the Primagen's fall. Yet as she closed in, the truth began to twist her conviction. The one she hunted was not the monster she had been promised, and the shadow funding her mission seemed all too familiar. The faint echo of a mind thought long dead. In the distance, something ancient watched their paths begin to converge. Across the fabric of time, a soldier met his end. But still, once a lord and general of an empire beyond the stars, had been condemned for treason against his king. Bound in chains, he was led to execution. But before the blade could fall, the sky itself tore apart. A temporal storm engulfed him in light and flame. But still awoke, he found himself in the Lost Land. A world raw and alive, where the laws of time bent to will and power. He saw its jungles teeming with monsters, its ruins glimmering with forgotten technology. And in the distance, he felt the pulse of something divine, the light burden. From the moment he felt its radiance, his heart hardened with ambition. The light burden, he believed, would deliver him vengeance and glory, a weapon to rewrite his fate, to crown him ruler, not only of this savage world, but of every realm beyond, gathering the lost, the desperate, and the faithless, but still forged a new army, the Legion of the Exile, and began his march towards a light that had once birthed the Lost Land. As Joshua Fireseed hunted the last of the Biobots, and Cyril stalked him from the shadows, but Still's armies rose in secret. The three paths, hunter, huntress, and conqueror, spiraled towards one another. The Lost Land, still healing from the wounds of the Primagen, began to tremble once more. And somewhere in the black between time and creation, a whisper echoed through the void, the voice of something older than gods, murmuring through the cracks of reality. In the quiet that followed his endless battles, Joshua Fireseed found no peace. Sleep came to him only in fragments. Within those dreams, he saw the face of a child he did not know, standing alone amid an endless sea of light. The child spoke no words, but Joshua could feel the pull. Something older than memory, something calling to him from beyond time itself. Each night, the visions grew sharper. The child's eyes were filled with both sorrow and power, and when they looked upon him, he felt the same divine energy that had once radiated from the light burden. At dawn, the dreams would fade, leaving behind only the echo of a voice he could not forget. Joshua began to fear this child. Whatever it was not simply a vision, but a messenger, or a warning. Far from the Lost Land, in the world of man, an unmarked military research facility carried out experiments cloaked in secrecy and sin. Its halls were sterile, its chambers filled with tanks of living specimens, creatures twisted by silence and desperation. Among their many abominations was Walgus, a hybrid organism born of human and amphibian genetics. Designed for adaptability and endurance, Walgus was meant to survive where no human could. But its creators found that what they had made was more than a mutation. It was evolution. Something alive in ways that defied reason. Walgus's mind began to awaken, his dreams echoing the same visions that plagued Joshua. They spoke of rivers of light, of suns collapsing, of a world caught between life and death. The researchers dismissed these ramblings as delusions, until they uncovered the true source of the connection. Within the facility's deepest vault, they had secured an artifact, a statue of a child. The scientists studied it in awe and fear, but within the statue flowed the trace remnants of the energy of creation itself, the same power that had once forged the Lost Land. In the presence of the statue, machinery malfunctioned, clocks ran backward, and men heard whispers in languages no human tongue has spoken in millennia. Some claimed the statue's eyes moved when no one watched. Others swore they could feel it breathing. To the ignorant, it was merely an object of curiosity. To those who listened, it was something far greater. A vessel, perhaps, or a messenger. To those who knew the old stories, the stories of Turok, the light burden, and energy that birthed worlds, it was something far worse. The child in Joshua's dreams and the statue in the laboratory were one and the same. The nightmares did not fade, they deepened. Each night Joshua dreamed of the child of light, its voice now fractured, bleeding, its image blurring between innocence and terror. The visions left him trembling, drenched in sweat, with the taste of iron on his tongue and the faint hum of the light burden echoing in his skull. The mantle of Turok had always been a burden of battle, but now it had become one of the mind. Unable to endure the solitude of his vigil, Joshua laid down his weapons and returned to the world he had left behind. He journeyed home, to the quiet fields and shadow woods of his youth, where memory and blood still lingered. There, he reunited with his siblings. Daniela, the scholar whose hands had long ago learned to heal rather than kill, and Joseph, steadfast and kind, who had always believed his brother's tales were myths made to mask trauma. Together the three sought peace in one another's company, hoping to comfort a family might still the echoes of war. Even in the fragile peace, Joshua felt the shadow moving closer. At night, he would see the outline of the child's statue in his dreams, surrounded by wings made of ash, and always beneath it, the sound of something vast, breathing in the dark. The entity that had survived the death of the universes and the birth of creation had not truly slept, only waited. Its essence, scattered and weakened by the Big Bang, had reformed in the cracks between dimensions, feeding on entropy, learning, watching. Now it found what it had sought, the origin signature, the primordial energy that still resided within the light burden. To Oblivion, this energy was not merely power, it was the seed of reality itself, the pulse that has sustained the universe's illusion of order. If it could be extinguished, the cycle would collapse. From that collapse, Oblivion would rise again, unchallenged. So it began the hunt, through dreams and distortions, through temporal storms and psychic fractures. Oblivion's gaze fell upon the Fireseed bloodline once more. It could sense the light burden's faint heartbeat through Joshua's dreams, a tether between creation and its undoing. The destruction of that energy would mark the end of all things, and the dawn of something that was not life, nor death, but sounds perfected. The nightmares grew unbearable. For nights without end, Joshua dreamed of the child of light, its face flickering like a flame in the dark, its voice calling to him from beyond the veil. One night, as lightning split the sky and rain whispered against the windows of the Fireseed home, Joshua told his sister what he had come to believe. He didn't yet understand that his words were prophecy. That night, the walls between worlds thinned. The spawn of Oblivion, vile manifestations of the Void's will, slipped through the cracks of reality and descended upon the Fireseed home. Joshua fought all the fury his bloodline could muster, buying seconds for his sister and brother to escape. Grievously wounded and cornered, he made his final stand. With one hand he clutched his family heirloom, the light burden, and with the other, he primed a grenade. His last act was both defiance and mercy. The explosion consumed the house, annihilating the spawn and silencing the night. Danielle and Joseph awoke beneath the strange sky. Adone had found them, their guardian across generations. She led them through a shimmering portal that tore through space and time, bringing them before the Council of Voices. These incorporeal forms now resided entirely within the vast crystalline machines. Some among the council spoke in dissent. They believed that the Turok lineage had cursed the balance of the cosmos, that too much blood and chaos followed their line. Yet others argued that without Turok, creation itself would have already fallen to Oblivion. In the end, the majority prevailed. The lineage would continue. One of the Fireseeds would inherit the mantle. Both would bear its burden. The new Turoks were sent to the futuristic city, choked in smoke and panic. Its skyline under martial law. Above it hovered a wound in the sky. A breach. A gateway through which Oblivion's influence poured into the world. The dead walked. The dying twisted into creatures of ash and bone. The city's remaining defenders, a desperate SWAT force, fought street by street, to hold back the tide. Daniel and Joseph moved among the chaos, side by side, their bond forged by loss and duty. They faced the Oblivion gunship, a SWAT cruiser infected by the Void's essence, its metal hull pulsing like living flesh. Together they destroyed it. The victory was fleeting. The breach could not be sealed. With the final surge of power, Oblivion entered the time stream itself, escaping beyond the reach of mortal comprehension. Adon traced his path to a place of nightmares made real, a military research facility where science had once touched the edges of godhood. Through another portal, Daniel and Joseph stepped into the facility's blood-stained halls. The walls were scrawled with symbols of a child, painted in blood, that glowed faintly in the dark. The air smelled of ozone and rot. Alarms blared. The self-destruct sequence had been triggered. Its assemblings fought through the swarms of abominations and shut it down. In the heart of the complex, they met the creature known as the Vias, a nightmare of flesh and metal. It fell beneath their blades, but the deeper they went, the more the walls whispered. There, Adon joined them and revealed the last truth. Oblivion was hunting the energy of the light burden, the origin signature of creation itself. The statue of the child was not a symbol, but a vessel, holding that very energy. Oblivion had mistaken it for another Turok, another living spark of the force that defied it since the dawn of time. Adon brought the Turoks to the Nexus, the pulsing heart of the Lost Land, where all realities converged. There they faced the Guardian, Opistor, a monstrous serpent born of temporal corruption, and struck it down. From the Nexus they entered a jungle realm at the base of Oblivion's mountain stronghold, where time itself shriveled. Adon, exploring alone, found a grotto hidden among the cliffs. At its center lay a stone basin, within which glowed the symbols of a child. A voice, gentle and ancient, spoke to her. The council of voices felt the disturbance and grew fearful. Adon's fate had led her beyond their control. Daniel and Joseph climbed the slopes of Oblivion's fortress, fighting through armies of Oblivion spawn and monstrosities born from the Void's hunger. They destroyed 2 ore refineries that fed the entity's physical form, weakening its hold on reality. In the heart of the fortress, they met the Alpha Fireborn, a being forged from the same flames that had once birthed the Lost Land. It fell, screaming, its body collapsing into the rivers of molten light. At last they reached the inner sanctum, where they found a small child, alone amid the ruins. Daniela's heart broke at the sight, until the child's smile twisted, its body warping and splitting into the shadows. The child became Oblivion. The siblings fought a battle beyond imagining, against the god that had haunted all existence. Their weapons blazed with the power of the light burden. In a blinding burst of energy, they destroyed Oblivion's body. But as before, its essence escaped. They tracked the essence to a place of unbearable sorrow. The broken form of their brother, Joshua. Oblivion had taken him. For a moment he was himself again, pleading for them to end it. Tears burning down Daniela's face as she raised their light burden. Together, she and Joseph released its power, radiant and final. Oblivion screamed as it was consumed, its existence erased from all realities. The void fell silent. Joshua, free at last, looked at his sister and whispered his final truth. The child, the one in my dreams, it was yours. She will carry our light. And then, he was gone. The Council of Voices declared the cycle complete. But Adon refused. She could still feel Joshua's essence, scattered, but not extinguished. She turned from the Council, abandoning her post and vanishing into the rift beyond the stars. The Council watched in silence. Then their leader gave a single command. Prepare.